Does perimenopause cause ADHD? And if not, why are so many women diagnosed or associate themselves with ADHD in perimenopause? Let's talk about it. So, what's going on? No, perimenopause does not cause ADHD. There are so many overlaps in kind of, I don't want to say symptoms because I'm ADHD and I don't think it's symptomatic, but there's so many overlaps in kind of thought processes or tells of between perimenopause and ADHD. What actually happens in perimenopause is that your coping mechanisms that you might not have even known existed, you might not have been aware that you were doing them, basically and go away. Your masks that you used to have, and your kind of people-pleasing masks, and the way that you would kind of smooth out the edges, just disappear. The good news is you end up with like no more shits to give. So in some ways you become much more vulnerable, honestly speaking, because you don't have the ability anymore for the kind of patience that you used to have. You don't have the ability anymore to kind of people please and make sure everybody else is all right. And one of the reasons for this is you end up with less estrogen, obviously, and estrogen's that nurturing, oh you okay, darling, kind of can I help you, you end up with so much less of that. And in some ways, I know it frustrates us that we're not the same human that we used to be, but in some ways, in some aspects, that's not always a bad thing, because we can spend a little bit more time now, my lovelies, focused on ourselves and learning to love the kind of truest version of ourselves, dare I say, because you don't have the tendency to just always look after everybody else anymore. That's probably unpopular opinion, but I'm going to say it anyway, because this is a time in your life where you need to look after you, and you're kind of forced to do so. And so ADHD kind of naturally comes out at this point, and it's simply because you can't mask a lot of the stuff that goes on. So the kind of, so bearing in mind, before I carry on, I'm ADHD. Hello. So some of the, for example, the disorganization that you might have just been able to get away with before, it's gonna show its beautiful self, because you've got less energy, and the brain fog with a lack of energy is just gonna not allow you to kind of just run around and try and get it all done. The brain fog in general is going to flummox you. So if before that you could just about get away with the kind of multiple tracks going, when you're in perimenopause and ADHD, it's a lot. It's a lot. And the overwhelm of ADHD and perimenopause can feel, because brain fog and the inability to kind of finish a train of thought. But when you've got lots of trains of thought at once, you just can't handle it. It just feels like a lot's going on. Okay, so whereas before you could kind of just let all the tracks run simultaneously, like the tab for the music and the conversation that you're having in your head whilst listening to somebody else while thinking about what you're going to do for dinner and kind of daydreaming at the same time, you can't do that anymore without it showing. And nor should you, because it's it's all right to be you. To be used, okay, right? But it's just overwhelming. And there's other things that the lateness, the timekeeping, the losing track of time, because you just are, it's the exhaustion, and the sleep issues get worse, because again, you might have trouble staying asleep or getting to sleep, So the things, as I said, there's just going to be a lot of overlap between perimenopause symptoms and traits of ADHD. And being in perimenopause just means that the ability to kind of smooth over the ADHD, so that so many women will get to perimenopause and go, I never knew that I was ADHD. And there might be parts of you that kind of, because secretly knew that you weren't quite like the others. I think for me, it was that kind of like, I always kind of thought I was on the outside looking in and didn't really get on with social stuff sometimes. And, you know, just kind of thought, well, if I just act like everybody else, maybe they won't really notice. Shh, don't tell anyone. So anyway, if this sounds like you, if you've kind of come out of the ADHD kind of closet, let me know. I'm running a masterclass about ADHD and perimenopause, but it won't be till October because it'll be in my membership. If you want to know anything about membership, the link is in, the link is in my bio somewhere. It'll be in October, but it's a really interesting topic that we do need to talk about. Anyway, my name is Kate Grosvenor. I'm a perimenopause expert. Give me a follow if you want to just know some really interesting truth-telling stuff about perimenopause and how we can get through it just a little bit with more fun, facts, and just a little bit more unscathed. Take care and I'll speak to you soon.